Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 805. Well, today we're going to be speaking with Ava Jane Teasley, and she is coming to us from the Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College in southern Georgia to talk to us about a lot of things. We're going to be talking about the coronavirus. And by the way, we recorded this about a month before it aired, so it'll be interesting to see how things have changed since we've recorded it. We're going to be talking about ag communications, how she got involved in that, and growing up at an FFA camp. Really interesting stuff. We'll get that started for you right now. Joining me today is Ava Jane Teasley, and she is coming to us from Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College down there in southern Georgia. And she is a former state vice president, or maybe a current. I should have confirmed that with you, Ava. State vice president for the state of Georgia, and former chapter secretary there for Eastside High School in Covington, Georgia, as well as a national finalist this past year in ag communications proficiency at the national level. Really cool. Ava Jane, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet. So I should have confirmed with you in the pre-interview, are you currently state vice president, or did you complete that term already?
I completed it. I retired in April of 2019.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'll ask you more about that coming up, but that's really cool that you did that. Man, for a great FFA state like Georgia, too, that's really cool.
Thank you.
You bet. Well, hey, I want to ask you just a few questions about you so our audience can get to know who they're listening to, and then after that, we'll kind of jump into talking about your supervised agricultural experience and stuff like that. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Well, how old are you now?
I'm 19 years old.
Okay, and this is your first year of college?
Yes, sir. I did a lot of dual enrollment in high school.
Okay.
So technically I am a sophomore, but I just tell everyone I'm a freshman.
Okay. You know, I love talking about dual enrollment or dual credit because it's such a great tool for people. So let's take a second to talk about that. How many college credits had you completed at the time you graduated high school?
So I did part-time dual enrollment, but I had 32 credit hours. I did it my junior and senior year through Georgia State University.
Gosh, so 32 credit hours. And how many of those 32 credit hours were you able to transfer over to ABAC and be able to apply towards your major of ag communications?
All of them, but one credit hour I had a lab that wouldn't transfer for chemistry.
Okay, awesome. So 31 credit hours transferred over. So that's the equivalent of two 15-credit semesters, essentially. So two full-time college semesters, and that's 1 year of college done before you even began. That's really cool.
Sir.
What was the cost of that for you to do those dual credit classes during high school?
Nothing.
Nothing. So how was it paid for then? Do you know?
They have this. It's actually new. Like in Georgia, they just passed a law for this too. That's going to change a lot of how dual enrollment is done. But for me, it was through just some grants that the university system had given through legislative things. But this year, the people that are currently in dual enrollment programs are allowed to continue, but they're going to have a max amount of credit hours that students are going to be allowed to take.
Okay.
For new students that decide to do dual enrollment. And for me personally, I found dual enrollment to be just something very beneficial to me. But I actually agree with the changing and having a limit for the credit hours, just because I was fortunate enough to only finish 1 year of college, but I have friends that graduated their high school with their associate's degree, and you're jumping right into your career classes. You don't really have that time in college to kind of explore and figure out if this is really the pathway you want to go on.
Sure.
You go in there and you have to really be determined to what you want to do. And so for the future, I think that's going to be really good. And frankly, colleges are going to increase tuition if they keep losing that money from dual enrollment students for current students that are graduated from high school. But for me, it was just something that really worked out. I went to my high school every day till 11 o'clock, and then I got to choose my schedule after that.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question for you is dual enrollment. Are you So are you taking separate classes at high school that they're through a community college or something like that? Or are these classes that are being taught by your high school teachers that you're getting credits at high school for as well as at a community college or something like that?
Yeah, no, I left the campus, and Georgia State has a campus in Newton County where I'm from.
Okay.
And so I would drive to that campus and take classes with college students.
Okay. Interesting. So you were taking, to be able to do that, let's do the math, 32 credits over 4 semesters. So you were taking about 8 credit hours per semester for your junior and senior year.
Yeah, and I took some summer classes as well.
Okay.
So, just so I didn't load myself too much,
Yeah.
especially my spring semester of my senior year working on state convention. For a lot of that stuff, I really wanted to take it easy.
Yeah.
So I fortunately had done a summer semester before then where I got 2 more classes in.
Okay, that's, that you brought up some interesting points about that as well. Now, in terms of colleges raising tuition because of this, that's an interesting deal. So, for example, when I did not take any dual credit courses in high school, I don't even know if they were available when I went to high school, but, back then we were still riding horses to school. We didn't have cars. No, I'm kidding. But it was a while ago, and so, but I did go to community college to begin, and so by the time I made it to a 4-year university, they had missed out on 2 years of tuition for me because I went to the more inexpensive community college. So, that's been something that's been going on for some time. But for the community colleges, are they, since it's paid for by a grant, obviously they're still receiving their full tuition, right? They're just getting it from you a year or 2 earlier than they normally would.
Yeah.
Okay. But what you're saying about students getting into college and exploring ideas and figuring out where they want to go, that is really interesting, because I feel like if you're right, if you've got 2 years done towards a certain major by the time you graduate high school, the pressure to continue with that major, even if you don't feel like it might be the right fit anymore, is going to be high because you've got so much work done towards it already.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is interesting. Okay. Now, we're going to be airing this on, April 20th. So we're recording this in March 12th, I think is today. But we're airing this in about a month. So it's an interesting time right now. Have you had spring break yet?
I go on spring break. This Friday is my last day of class until spring break.
Okay. So we're right in the
Thank the Lord.
We're right in the midst of all this talk about coronavirus and stuff like that. Has there been any talk at ABAC about you not coming back from spring break? You going online for the rest of the semester?
I'm very fortunate to actually have a job with the marketing and communication department at ABAC, and I work in the public relations suite, so I do get to hear a lot. A lot of our students are worried about, this virus that's going around, and I think the biggest thing is that students need to educate themselves on how to handle the virus and to handle going forward. For us, we're taking extreme precaution. We have a committee that meets nearly every day now, talking about the virus and how it's escalated. But in Georgia, let me make sure I'm correct, but there's only about 6 counties that have confirmed cases. Yeah, there's 6 counties with confirmed cases, and then there are 7 counties with maybe a positive, maybe they've been in contact with someone that might have it, cases. And so they have already told our professors and our teachers to prepare yourself, have an online curriculum made just in case it gets worse over break and people come back. But we have sent out students who decide to take a cruise or go out of the country, anything like that, have to let us know and let one of our vice presidents know, as well as have a 14-day quarantine when they come back.
Oh, wow.
So they wouldn't even be able to come back to campus. So our ABAC's done a really great job at monitoring that situation, but, it just really depends how it changes in the next week, honestly.
So that's interesting. So they haven't said students are not coming back, but they are definitely making plans, depending on what direction this all goes, where that may be a factor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very interesting. So how difficult will it be for you, like right now, considering the classes that you're enrolled in, if they say don't come back, we're going to teach you for the rest of the semester online, is that going to be a seamless transition for you, or does that seem like it's going to be like really I don't know, kind of difficult and bumpy because there's nothing set up to provide you with the course materials online or something like that? Where is that at for you?
I don't think it's going to be too bad. I will say it stinks because the one thing that ABAC takes pride in is through our administration, we do a lot of hands-on learning. So it's a lot of just being in the field and doing it rather than sitting and taking notes like a lot of other colleges do. And you have that smaller class size at ABAC where you're allowed to have that one-on-one talks with your professor. But for me, I don't think it'd be that bad. We do have an online program that we use already, and that's where all of our classes would be administered. But for me, I'm taking a broadcasting class, and every week we make a broadcast to put, and we put on a show every Friday. And so if we do go online, I won't be able to do that for the rest of the semester.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting times, and I appreciate you indulging me and letting me kind of pick your brain as you're actually in the midst of what's going on here at the colleges. And, of course, we'll all be hearing this after your spring break is over, but who knows what will be going on then in a month from now. So very interesting. Well,
I think the biggest thing is for people just to get educated, wash your hands for the love of God, and, don't freak out.
Yeah. Well, Ava, I got very distracted talking to you about what's going on, but of course it's current events and stuff like that. But let me ask you more about you. So when you're not at school and you're at home, are you on a farm? Are you in town? Or do you live like in something kind of in the middle of those two?
So my living situation throughout my entire life has been a little different than everybody else. Covington is really close to Atlanta. It's about 30 minutes southeast of Atlanta. But my dad is actually, he's a big reason why I was a part of the FFA. But he runs the Georgia FFA FCCLA Center. So my entire life, I've lived on a summer camp. So,
oh, wow.
So I've literally lived camp my entire life, watching students, FCCLA and FFA students come in and out, along with church groups and things like that. So I don't necessarily come from a farm background. I did show livestock growing up. We did have a barn on site, but other than that, I was driving golf carts around, hanging out with summer staff and campers.
Gotcha. So you were getting exposure to FFA and everything about it there in Georgia your whole life.
Yes, absolutely. My dad, before I was born, he was an ag teacher for about 6 years, and then he got that job in Covington, and he's been doing that since then. He runs actually both camps in Georgia, the Camp John Hope and the Covington camp, and he's over both the camp managers, things like that.
Wow, that is interesting. Okay. The opportunities through FFA are limitless, it seems like.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's do this. I would love to acknowledge who your FFA advisor or advisors have been. Who are those folks been for you throughout high school?
So my high school FFA advisor is Miss Katrina Pollard. And what's cool is that, when I was a child, she actually served as a summer staff. Okay. So I kind of knew who she was before I even went into the classroom. But it was just her really at Eastside. She helped me along the way. But, it takes a village. And so along with that, Miss Jackie Cervantes, she became one of our middle school ag teachers in my county. And she helped along the way, too, especially when Miss Pollard was on maternity leave and things like that. And same with my mentors during state office, Mr. Ben Lastly. He's the executive secretary for the Georgia FFA Association. And Mr. Andy Paul, he was he's our leadership specialist here at Georgia FFA. So all those people are just extreme mentors in my life.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you for acknowledging all of them. Really appreciate that. Ava Jane, I want to take a second here and acknowledge our great sponsors for this show and everybody. Of course, I want to talk about Lacrosse Footwear. You can find them at lacrossefootwear.com. Always love to talk about lacrosse when we're doing an FFA episode because they are so proud to support the FFA by annually sponsoring 15 scholarships along with 100 jackets as part of the Give the Gift of Blue program. And, of course, we use their Alpha Range boots here on our farm in Idaho, whether it's winter, whether it's summer, it just doesn't matter. We use them every single day, and we hope you will find a pair of those on your feet as well. You can check out everything they've got to offer for you at lacrossefootwear.com. And of course, Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment, everybody, just the finest in squeeze chutes, cattle panels, alleyway sweep tubs, whatever you need to handle your cattle. You need good equipment. You need to reduce that stress. You need to minimize the potential for injury to both the livestock and the handlers. And Powder River, they developed their equipment working with some of the wildest cattle we have in this country, coming in off of public ground out here in the West. And therefore, this equipment is perfect for your herd because they're going to minimize that stress, and they're going to give you as safe of a process working with your large livestock as is possible. So please check them out. Please let your local farm and ranch retailer know you'd like to see that Powder River green in their sales yard so you can have access to this as well. You can find them at powderriver.com. All right. Well, Ava Jane, excuse me. I got to throw in the Jane. That's new for me. You know, I'm from the West. You're from the South, and it's just different. We're just the names are different, so I got to get used to that. Let's talk about your supervised agricultural experience. What have you been doing?
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of just a bunch of things. I didn't even know I was having an AgCom SAE until I finally just looked at it from the big picture and realized that's what it was. Throughout high school, I did a lot of volunteer work at an assisted living home. Mm-hmm. And one of the activities that I did after getting to know a lot of the residents and seeing that a lot of them didn't actually have decorations on their dorms, I hosted a workshop to build wreaths for their rooms. And so all the residents that wanted to build Christmas wreaths for their room, I used the skills I learned in my floral design class to be able to do that for them, as well as we have a Newton County Agricultural Center named after one of my dear mentors. His name's Mr. Mort Ewing. He's a past National Farm Bureau Vice President and Georgia Farm Bureau President. And throughout high school, I got to witness just the SPLOST money coming in to build that building and then it going from the ground up. So I did a lot of work in that way, helping with FFA students advocate to our community members who didn't know that we needed an agricultural center.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I mean, we were at one town hall meeting and one lady said, "We don't need an ag center, we need a grocery store." And that's when you really put it into perspective that people don't know where their food comes from.
Yeah.
And they need that physical building, that physical representation that they can see, that agriculture and farmers, and they're creating the food and fiber, not Kroger.
Right. Right.
And so with that, and along with my opportunities to speak with legislators and things like that through state FFA office, it all created this one big SAE.
Very cool. So you put it all together and kind of, when you say when you finally looked at the big picture, was that when you were putting together your record book to apply for your national proficiency?
Yes, sir. So my senior year, I knew I wanted to go into agricultural communications, and I didn't really know why. I just knew I wanted to be in the ag field and an advocate for farmers so they can do their job.
Uh-huh.
And I saw like how important it was. It felt like a sense of duty, really, to serve my county, to serve the rural parts of my county.
Yeah.
And I mean, I used to show lambs, and so I got to be a part of the very first show in that agricultural center. And it's a covered arena with air conditionings, and then we have a pole barn that you can take panels up and down in to hold lambs and horses, you name it, cows, and then we have a rodeo arena that you can do cutting and barrel racing and all that stuff in. And so I was able to be a student representative for that facility, run their social media, speak to newspapers about the facility and the progress of it, do videos to show, everyone on social media. That's really the best platform you can reach people other than word of mouth.
So you were like the public information officer for this center.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Mr. Ewing and I He didn't know the building was going to be named after him, and
Yeah.
I was very thankful to just be able to be a part of that dedication, be a part of that process to help take pictures and anything you really need for media-wise to represent that building and to represent agriculture in Union County.
Oh, that is great. Well, I can get a little bit of the scope or the breadth of what you were doing based on your description, but obviously it was really well received. You wound up being a national proficiency finalist. I mean, picked in the top 4 in the nation for what you were doing in agricultural communications. What did that mean to you?
I was just overwhelmed with, I've had so much support and so much love throughout my entire FFA career, and I've been pushed through so many different levels. And, it was really hard for me to hang up my jacket at state convention in April as a senior, starting a whole new chapter in my book. And it was really nice to be able to put my jacket back on to go to national convention and to just speak to an even broader spectrum of people that don't really know necessarily about Georgia agriculture, what it's like to live kind of suburban area, and emphasizing agriculture in that way. And so it was very surreal. I was very thankful. Obviously, I didn't do it by myself. I had so much help, and I'm so thankful for that.
Awesome. Well, so now you're majoring in ag communications. What do you want to do with this when you finish college?
So what I tell people is that, at the end of the day, I want to be the voice of the farmer. Being a farmer is a calling, 100%. It's a gift, and I do not have it. And so a part of that, I still care so much about agriculture and the industry that I want to be able to be the voice for those people so they don't have to worry about representing themselves, and that I could do that for them, whether that be, pursuing a degree in environmental law or agricultural law, or working under the Bowman, Georgia, for the Georgia Department of Agriculture. I'm really open to anything. I just want to make a difference in people's lives and in farmers' lives to advocate and get what's right for the agricultural community. That
is great. Well, Ava Jane, that is wonderful. I'm happy to hear that. Happy to have you on our side.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this. Before I wrap it up, I would love to ask your advice for other students, those students who maybe are feeling like you. They've got a passion about agriculture. They feel drawn to it, but the actual work of farming might not be the right fit for them. What advice do you have for them for finding their place in agriculture?
I mean, I can be super cheesy and tell you that, without agriculture, we're going to be naked and hungry because that's our clothes and our food. But really, at the end of the day, it's just to take a step towards what you believe in and to what you know is right. What sold FFA for me was the Creed. Creed speaking was the very first career development event that I did, and memorizing that and just living those words out. Those words have been so true since the 1930s. And to say that you believe in the future of agriculture and the future of what our students in the FFA organization and students at ABAC and anybody pursuing a degree or any kind of advocacy for agriculture, it's really just being able to speak your voice and to know that you're going to have backup. People are going to be there for you, but no one can do anything for the agricultural industry if you don't speak up about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That is great advice. Ava Jane, this has been great. Thank you so much for the insight into everything that you're doing and everything that's going on currently. Really enjoyed having you on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm so thankful to be here. I'm glad that we got to have this conversation.
Well, thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you to Ava Jane Teasley for coming on today. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.